Welcome in to the Skol Purple podcast. We are ready to preview the 1-4 bowl, I guess. The Vikings and the Bears with Bears Talk Underground. Really appreciate Larry joining the show, a friend of the show. Larry, good to have you with us. And unfortunately for both of us, our teams are not faring so well this season, but we might have a little bit of a different outlook on the teams going forward. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the team in Chicago. But how are you doing, first of all? How are things going?
Not too bad. I'm getting the days to go by one at a time, or so it would seem, and wasn't enjoying the season so much in September, but things have kind of turned around here in October. First, with our offense finally showing up in the Denver game, and then actually winning a game, snapping a 14-game regular season losing streak to the Commanders last Thursday that I
Yeah.
don't think anybody saw coming. Um,
Or at least in the
because
fashion that it came.
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone saw us beating the Commanders because I don't think anyone thought we could do
Yeah.
offensively what we did against the Broncos. I didn't,
Yeah.
people, and I didn't either. I thought that their defensive line would beat us up the same as they did last year, and they were not a factor for the most part in the ball game. So, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised with how the offensive line performed against a much better defensive line, and we put 40 up this time, which was more than the Commanders could manage to score on Thursday night. So
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was a big time performance for the Bears. I didn't think there was a huge chance for the Bears to win, but I thought it was going to be closer than people thought, just because we don't really know what the Commanders are at this point. Like, they've won some games, but they've also lost some games, so it's like, where are they at? But the Bears just came in; they had a chip on their shoulder in the game, and they came in and tore them apart. 40-point game, 40,
yeah,
40 points, and impressive performance from Justin Fields for most of the game as well.
yeah, and I mean, let's not forget DJ Moore, Jordan
Yeah.
or Justin Fields threw for 282, 230 of it went to one guy in DJ Moore, 280 or 230 on 8 catches and three touchdowns, excuse me, including the one that put the game away for good. So yeah, DJ Moore was in full beast mode against the Commanders, and I was on a Commanders friend podcast last week, and we were going back and forth a little bit online, and we on that opening drive, we went right down the field and scored with DJ Moore accounting for almost all of it, and I was like, I after last year where the Bears led the league in opening drive scores and we still went 3-14. I was like, excuse me if I don't get excited about us scoring on the first drive. So I'm going to have to see us do it a few more times to get excited about where the offense is. And oh, by the way, you guys might want to cover DJ Moore. So yeah, but 8 catches on 10 targets for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns is not covering DJ Moore. So that didn't work out for them.
Yeah, my cousin wasn't too happy when he had to play him in fantasy. He was
Mm,
not too happy about that, but such it is. So it
yeah.
goes. But no, I'm just curious on your thoughts before we dig more into some of the other things I have in store for us in this preview. What are your thoughts on the overall start to the season for the Bears? What were your thoughts going into the season? What were your kind of expectations, and how have they aligned or not aligned so far this year?
Well, what we expected to see from the offense is what we've seen the last 2 weeks. Not in the terms of the amount of points that we've scored, but for the efficiency to go up, for Justin Fields to be able to spread the ball around, to use DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert coming out of the backfield, that kind of thing. And those first, 3 weeks against Green Bay, Tampa Bay, and especially against Kansas City, those guys were a distant memory. We didn't hear from them at all. DJ Moore had 2 catches for 25 yards in the first game against Green Bay, and they were back-to-back catches in the first quarter. We never heard from DJ Moore for the rest of the game. And, you know, We saw a lot of DJ Moore in the opening drive against Tampa Bay, and then very little for the rest of the game. He caught a touchdown pass at the end of the game when we were already down 41-3 against the Chiefs. But that was DJ Moore being quote unquote used in the offense in the first 3 games of the season. And then you come out 2 weeks ago against the Broncos, and then what we saw from DJ Moore in the Commanders game is like, yeah, this is the guy that we gave up the number 1 overall pick for, for what he's been doing and how he's contributing. And, every time he touched the ball, he made Washington look bad, just bad. I mean, he absolutely abused Emmanuel Forbes, their top draft pick this year. They had to bench him, just so DJ Moore hurt him as bad the next time he touched the ball. So, I mean, that's more along the lines from the offensive line, from the running game, is what we were hoping to see, expecting to see going into it. And we didn't see it, even inklings of it until the Denver game. And then we saw it really show up on Thursday against the Commanders. So, but like the overall feeling, that week 1 loss to Green Bay was just a gut punch because of all of the hope, the expectation, the hype, and everything, not just from Bear fans, but there were people also outside, talking heads and what have you, that were expecting things from the Bears that just did not show up in that first week. We got ran off the field by our arch rival, and Jordan Love's first, I know it's like his second or third start or whatever it was, but the first game of the actual Jordan Love era, he comes out there, he's got all the time in the world to throw. He throws 3 touchdown passes. Aaron Jones is running like a madman on us. It's just like, okay, so we're just doing 2022 all over again. Okay, I guess that's what's happening. And then the same thing with Tampa. It looked even worse against Kansas City. It's just like, man, well, going into the game against the Commanders, we had number 1 and number 2 overall in the draft for 2024. So it's like, this is what we're going to be looking forward to again this year.
Yeah. And now a little glimmer of hope after, like you said, the last 2 games. Even though you didn't beat Denver, you came close. You scored a lot of points in that game, and then you just hand one to the Commanders, making them look not like a very good team in that game. So, so I think the Bears are trending in the right direction, it seems. And, depending on who you talk to from a Vikings perspective, you could say the Vikings are trending in the right direction if they just would stop turning the ball over and they would just decide to convert some red zone opportunities into touchdowns instead of just field goals, or instead of turning the ball over. So it depends on your thoughts. I'm kind of the mindset that the team is on a downward trend at the moment, but there are some Viking fans who think, there's still a lot left for this team in the 2023 season. I'm not convinced of that yet. They haven't convinced me that they can stop turning the ball over yet through 5 weeks. So, and I think this is not going to be an easy test against the Bears, who just, like we said, a lot of confidence, I'm sure, after that win against the Commanders. Plus, they get that little mini bye week after the Thursday night game, so it's not looking great. And then, of course, Dick Butkus, who died, they're going to be fired up, I'm sure, on Sunday to try and win for him at home, their first home game since he died. So there's going to be a ceremony, I think, and stuff. So it's very, very, it makes me very nervous with the Vikings going into Soldier Field. Always does when it's Soldier Field, because the Vikings historically have struggled there. But I think with some of the outlying factors, and then also the big elephant not in the room, Justin Jefferson, out for the next 4 games at least, that's got to make you feel a lot better about your chances against the Vikings going into this game. But before we get into the game as a whole, just curious, and I know you kind of hit on this a little bit, but your thoughts on the progression of Justin Fields through the first 5 weeks.
Well, the reason that we were so excited about the season going into it is that we saw what we saw from Fields, using his legs, being a dynamic player, being the athlete that he was in the running game. And the question has always been about the passing game, but go back and watch the first 2 seasons and you would see on the times that he had time to throw the ball, one of two things was happening. Either he wasn't reading the field properly or there was literally nobody open. And we were excited about this year because we had an offensive line that we thought would be more consistent in giving him that time to be able to see the field, to see things open up. Tevin Jenkins goes down in camp. Nate Davis, who we signed in free agency as our guard, has been in and out of camp due to like family issues. Like his mom fell ill and, had to be there for her in case she passed. She finally did. So he's finally past that now, so he can focus on football again and play instead of being torn between the two worlds. And I can't imagine what that must have been like for him. But we had this rookie tackle in Darnell Wright. Cody Whitehair hurts his hand at the end of training camp. He was supposed to be the center. So, but the silver lining there was, we just shift him over to guard to play in Tevin Jenkins' spot. Lucas Patrick, who can, was our swing interior guy. He can play the center spots, and then we're good to go. Then Braxton Jones, who was a solid rookie last year, all of a sudden can't stop holding people. He's jumping offside or, jumping false starts. That's what I'm looking for, and everything. And it's just, and then he gets hurt. So he goes down. And now we've got to have Larry Borum out there, who is our swing tackle and all that kind of stuff. So it's like it just wasn't really there for the offensive line to be what we were hoping it would be, to give Justin Fields the time to find DJ Moore and all that kind of stuff. Because I felt all along that his progress was stunted as a passer by the O-line that was in front of him. And I think I was proven right, because the first time that we saw the offensive line perform well was against Denver. Then they did it again on Thursday against the Commanders, against a much better defensive line, at least in my opinion, 4 first-round picks and whatnot. And we saw him throw for 335 against the Broncos and 282 against Washington, and be efficient doing it at the same time. He hasn't needed his legs in these last 2 games because he's had the time to read the field, find the guys open, and also the fact that we have better receivers that are getting open has been really helpful as well. So it's always been about what was around Justin, and I think it's finally being proven true by watching the talent level goes up and things are starting to get easier for him. It's finally starting to click together now that everyone's been playing together for a little while now. So, like you said, we're trending in the right direction, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
I'm curious, before I ask the next question, I was going to Rashawn Johnson, your rookie running back. Obviously, I think Khalil Herbert is going to be out. Does it sound like for a couple of games?
Yeah, a few games, but I guess not long enough for them to put him on IR. Okay. So he's just going to be gobbling up a roster spot for the next couple weeks while we go. We signed Darrington Evans, who was on the team last year, to kind of fill in the hole, because now it's the Deontay Foreman show at running back until Roschon can come back off of concussion protocol.
Oh, that's right. He's still dealing with an injury too. Okay.
Yeah, he got his bell rung on Thursday. Pretty good.
So he's questionable for the Vikings game as well. So yeah. So the maybe the only real position of worry is on offense for you guys, I should say, is at the running back position, but it didn't seem like it really hurt you guys too much on Thursday night. I guess I don't remember when did Herbert go out of the game or not, but
it was in the second half at one point. Okay. But he had made his point by then. He had 10 carries for 76 yards on Thursday, so he was gouging him pretty good there in the second half, and he suffered the injury actually trying to catch a poorly thrown ball from Justin. He was trying to kind of stop and come back for the ball, and he kind of collapsed on top of his own leg and sprained the ankle. He got taped up. He looked like a mummy there on the right leg trying to come back in, and they pitched him the ball. He's running the right, and as soon as he planted to step, he went down like a folding chair, man. He went right down. It's like, oh, well, he's done. He's done. He's not coming back in. God bless him for trying, because Roschon was already out. Deontay Foreman was a healthy scratch. So we had nobody else but our starting fullback, Kari Blasingame, who carried the ball at the end of the game because we're trying to run the ball to close the game out, but we couldn't do it because we didn't have a healthy running back on the roster at the
Yeah.
moment. So God bless him for trying, but it wasn't to be, and he'll probably be out for I think 2 to 3 weeks with that high ankle sprain.
Yeah. And it doesn't look like, I guess, in the 5 carries. I mean, he's only had 5 carries, but Deontay Foreman, 5 carries, 16 yards in that Commanders game. But that defensive line, I'm sure, was pretty decent at stopping him for the Commanders in that game. And the Vikings, I mean, outside of Danielle Hunter and assuming that Marcus Davenport plays, outside of those two guys, a lot of the rest of the Vikings interior defensive line and defensive linemen in general, it's not great. So it's a lesser challenge for the Bears in regard to that when they go against the Vikings. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on for sure. But one last thing I want to talk about before your thoughts on your head coach, Matt Eberflus, so far throughout the first 5 games this year and all of last year.
Well, last year he was the captain of a sinking ship. We all knew that we were, even though we weren't trying to actively tank, we knew that those losing 10 games in a row, but you had some level of optimism that if with the full slate of draft picks we have, with the most salary cap space in the league, that we would definitely be able to improve the roster, and that would mean a better team and a better record because um look at the way that we played and we gave everybody hell, with this inferior roster that everybody knew was bad, but we played the Eagles, and it wasn't until like the last 8 minutes of the game that the Eagles took charge and won the game, kind of thing. Either the week before, or the week after with the Bills, same thing. We gave them hell all day long till about middle to late third quarter. They come back and put us away. That's how it was with everybody. It's like we know we're playing against the better team, but we went out there and fought them tooth and nail until the very end. And you figure that if you are better, then you should play better and get better results. And early on, that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And but the thought on Eberflus was that this is a huge problem, and that the failings of the Bears, especially in those first 3 games, had to be coaching, because how do you improve the roster at every level? You got better, not like, we didn't blow anybody out of the water. We didn't sign an elite pass rusher or anything like that, but we were better everywhere. Defensive line, linebackers, secondary, offensive line. We improved the running back room. We got DJ Moore and the wide receivers, and all that kind of stuff. How do you improve the roster that much? And you play as bad, if not worse, for the first 3 games of the season, and then have that huge collapse. It's got to be coaching. Nothing else makes sense. How do you get better talent wise and play worse? It doesn't make sense. That comes down
Yeah.
to coaching. And if we had lost on Thursday, I think there's a very real possibility that you and I are right now talking about, our secondary coach, John Hoke, or our special teams coordinator, Richard Hightower, as our interim head coach, as we try to figure out, we're 0-5 and where we go from here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been interesting to watch. I'm still not sold completely on Eberflus, and I think you're kind of in that same boat too. But it's early, right? I mean, you can't totally be sold if you're a Vikings fan on Kevin O'Connell yet either. I mean, 1-4 start this year, even though they went 13-4 a year ago. I mean, there's still been a lot of shortcomings. So it'll be interesting to see the development of these two coaches throughout the next year or two and how that impacts things. But moving on to the actual game itself here, the Vikings go into Soldier Field on Sunday favored by 2.5 at the moment we're recording this on Tuesday night. So we'll see how much closer that gets, or what the line does by the time the game starts on Sunday. But It sounds too also like that you guys might be getting some of your key players back, like an Eddie Jackson and potentially your big time corner Jalen Johnson. Both of those guys have a chance to play this Sunday, correct?
And our nickel corner, Kyler Gordon,
Yeah, right.
who was our second round pick. He broke his hand week 1 against the Packers. So his IR, he's been designated for return from injured reserve, so he's back in practice, and I think they have until what, like Friday or Saturday, to determine if he's actually going to be put on the 53-man roster to play on Sunday. Eddie Jackson left the Tampa Bay game with a foot injury, so he's been out the last couple weeks as well. And Jalen Johnson, I think it was a hamstring or something or whatever. I was ready to fire the entire training staff a couple weeks ago. Everybody left the game with a hamstring injury a couple weeks. Like, you getting these guys to stretch or what? What is the deal, man? Everybody's going
Yeah.
down with soft tissue injuries. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah.
So you got to get
Right.
these guys ready, get them limbered up or something.
Yeah. Well, and funny enough, or not funny enough, if you're a Vikings fan, Justin Jefferson hamstring injury, but that doesn't seem like it's been a huge theme for the Vikings so far under Kevin O'Connell with those soft tissue injuries, which is a good sign. But unfortunately for Jefferson, he's out for the next 4 weeks. But so yeah, that kind of gives me a little bit of a cause for pause as well, though, seeing that you guys are getting some of those guys back. And us being down one of our skill position players, the best receiver in the NFL, I firmly believe. So I think that really leaves me wondering what is going to happen on Sunday. I think Jordan Addison will probably step up, the rookie wide receiver the Vikings drafted in the first round from USC, but at the same time, is that going to be enough combined, even with TJ Hawkinson, KJ Osborne? Are those guys going to all be able to step up? How does the Vikings running game do against the Bears? I think that could determine a lot about this game. If the Vikings are able to run the ball successfully, then that could be a long day for the Bears. But who knows? Who knows? That's why they play the games. But I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on the Vikings overall so far this season and going into this game. What scares you the most, and where are some areas the Bears can take advantage?
Well, we're still not that great on defense. We did very well against the run last week, but at the same time, the Commanders didn't try to run the ball. I believe they said like 8 minutes to go in the second quarter, and literally for the rest of the game, they never ran the ball again. Sam Howell threw the ball over 50 times. He got 388 yards, but for all it did for the Commanders on Thursday, because they just completely abandoned the run, taking the ball out of the hands of, probably the second best player they have on offense besides Terry McLaurin. And, they just completely threw the ball out of his hands. And it's not like Robinson was running poorly when they were running in the first half. So, I think that if, like you said, if we can come down and, really show up against the run. I mean, it's not the sunniest prospect to put the ball into Kirk Cousins' hands and have him throw the ball around to Addison and Hawkinson and Osborne and everything. I will be able to sleep a little bit better on Saturday knowing that Justin Jefferson won't be there, but those other guys can still also be a problem for us as well, because we've had, if we can get to Kirk Cousins, then I like the chances of being able to play better against the pass, because the things that killed us, especially in those first 3 weeks, we made Baker Mayfield look like the second coming of Brett Favre in week 2, because we just couldn't get to the guy. He's running around in the pocket, he did like an underhand shovel pass for a first down at one point in this. Like, is it 1997 again? What the hell's happening here with this and everything? Pat Mahomes finally, looked crappy in the first 2 weeks against the Jaguars and the Lions. All of a sudden, he's slinging it all over the field like the MVP of old against us week 3, and we couldn't get close to that guy if we tried. But it's like against the Broncos, we were able to get to Wilson or to pressure him a bit, and then we sacked Howell 5 times, and we actually should have had him 7, but we let him squirm out of 2 sacks on Thursday night. So it was like, and we saw that the passing game was largely ineffective, even though they almost got 400 yards on us. So it's be our ability to defend the run, and then how well we do in actually rushing the passer. Because Kirk Cousins is a pretty calm character as far as he's not going to be that quarterback that freaks out just to get rid of the ball, but everybody's going to struggle when they're constantly under pressure. It's like Bear fans know that better than almost anybody. Watching Justin Fields get his brains beat in for 2.5 seasons up to this point, and what it's looked like the last couple of weeks when he's had time to sit back and throw the ball.
Well, and I think the key thing on Kirk Cousins pressuring him, it's not always going to be effective if you're pressuring him and you're getting close to him, but he's still able to cleanly throw the ball.
Yeah.
Which I think that was part of the reason he was so successful against the blitz against Kansas City. That was one of the graphics they brought up during the game. Like, oh, Kirk is doing really well against the blitz in terms of 8 of 11 at the time. I think it wasn't for very many yards, but at least completing passes. But the thing that I think that always is tough for Cousins is when he is thrown off his spot. Where he's trying to throw the ball from, if you make him move or you make him just uncomfortable to throw the ball from wherever it may be, that seems like that's a problem for him. So I think also, if you're able to rattle him, and I think as we know, the Vikings are good at turning the ball over so far this season. If you're able to cause a strip sack or two in the game, with a cornerback blitz or a linebacker blitz, whatever. We've seen the Vikings struggle with that at times this season. So it'll be interesting to see if the Bears can get home. However, the Vikings offensive line, for the most part, has been pretty good this season. There's still a little bit of a weakness, I'd say, in the interior, but for the most part, it's been pretty solid. Every now and then, there's going to be sacks. There's going to be things that happen, but most generally, definitely better than Washington. Not that that's saying much, but so I guess that's what I would say about the Vikings in terms of Cousins and the offensive line. But the Vikings usually do a pretty good job of giving Cousins some sort of an outlet, whether it's a running back or a receiver running a short route or something to get the ball out of his hands. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of all I've got. I don't know if you have any questions for me or if you want to talk about anything else in regards to this game.
Well, you just have to, when it's the thing that I always talk about on my show when it comes to these Bears Vikings games is how, especially in Soldier Field, because you haven't had too many weird games in Minnesota, but in Soldier Field, the weirdest things always go down between the Bears and the Vikings. You have the famous Devin Aromashadu game in 2009, where he caught like 9 passes for 169 yards, a walk-off in overtime, and then you basically never heard from him ever again. He bounced around. He even played for you guys for a year or two, I think, but you literally never heard from him again. Adrian Peterson comes in against the best defense in the NFL his rookie year, runs for 230 and 3 touchdowns against us.
And then Paul Ettinger hit like a 56-yarder, I think it was.
Like that. Yeah, 2008.
Yeah.
2008, the quarterback matchup was Kyle Orton versus Gus Frerotte, and somehow that game was like 49-42 or something. It was like you never think you're going to get 90 points out of Kyle Orton and Gus Frerotte, but it happened that day.
It did.
I mean, it's like the weirdest things always happen in Bears Vikings games, especially in Soldier Field. So you just don't know what the weird thing is going to be. I hear that it's supposed to rain on Sunday, so maybe that could end up being a factor. It could be one of those weather games or something like that. And we all know how great the Soldier Field turf can be. Thank you very much, City of Chicago. And that may end up being a factor in that. KJ Osborne was wide open, but when he stopped to catch the ball, he just slid right past where it was going to go. wide open. Eddie Jackson takes it back for
Yeah,
whatever, or
yeah,
vice versa, you know? So who
yeah.
knows?
Like the monsoon from San Francisco when you guys played San Francisco a year ago. That was a crazy game.
Yeah.
And I when you say the weather could not be favorable in terms of rain or whatever, boy, that doesn't give me much of an assurance as a team that's already struggling to take care of the ball when it's indoors.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've watched the Vikings a few times this year, and you guys are 1-4, but you at least should be 3-2, I think.
yeah.
Especially that Chargers game.
Oh,
Brandon Staley damn near handed you the game
I
on
was
a
at that
silver
game,
platter.
man.
Oh, were
Oh,
you? And
yeah,
the
it was
tip drill
brutal.
interception, that tip drill
Oh,
interception at the end of the game is like, oh man, that hurts bad. It's like that one
and
had to sting. Yeah.
the 20 seconds, 20, 25 seconds that
Oh
Cousins
yeah.
let go off the clock. Oh, yeah, that was great. Not.
Yeah.
Just,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, I
Anyways,
mean, it's your perfect record in one score games last year. I don't think anybody thought that it would be the other extreme though. Like I is like obviously, the odds on you going 11-0 in one score games this year wasn't great, but have you won a one score game yet? Was the win over Carolina a one score
Carolina,
game?
that was
Was it?
21-13. That was
Right.
the final score in that
21-13.
game. Yep.
So, but it's like, is it 1-4? Have they all been one score games?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, there you go.
Yep.
11-4, and in the first 5 games, it's all one score game, but you're 1-4 this time. It's like I didn't think that it would go from one extreme
Well,
to the other.
technically, if you want to go back all the way to the 2021 season, the Vikings were 6-8, or maybe it was even worse than that. I think it might have been 5-8 in one score games the final year of Mike Zimmer. And
Okay.
so the Vikings technically they got even by going 0-3 to start the season and going 11-0 last year. I think that was
Yeah,
even or something close to that. And then now they're 1-1 in one score games, I guess.
there
So
you
it's a
go.
reset. It's a reset, I
We're
guess.
resetting. Yeah, but I mean, at least, I mean, at the very least, because the thing that's also been the toughest about the way this year has started is that just feeling like you don't have a chance.
Yeah.
And for especially in that Green Bay game, it was 10-6 at halftime. We were winning 10-6 at halftime, but here
Yeah.
comes Aaron Jones, and 104 yards and 2 touchdowns later, and we're down 20-10, or it was like 20, yeah, 20 to 10, or no, 24-10, or something crazy like that. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, this is over, because with the
Yep.
way our offense is playing, that 10-point lead might as well be 100 points with the way our
Mhm.
offense is struggling right now. And then, don't even get me started on Kansas City. It was 34-0 at halftime. It was just like, okay, I don't know, if I didn't do a podcast, I wouldn't bother watching the second half. What would be the point?
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting season for both of these teams. I'd say, based on what we've seen from Green Bay, they are kind of falling off after. I'd say it was an okay couple of weeks to start the season, even though they lost to Atlanta. It was a close loss. But then, the last few weeks, it's been like, oh boy. And then 3
yeah,
interceptions for Jordan Love against the Raiders. So kind of seems like the Bears are turning a corner in the good way, and the Packers are turning a corner in the bad way. And then the Vikings are kind of in that, what are they? What are
yeah.
they going to do? What are they?
Which is why
And the
I'm
Lions are
upset.
good.
Yeah, which is why I'm upset we don't see him again until week 18, when
Yeah,
it's
right.
when it's very possible that game won't matter to either of us.
Hmm.
So we're just gonna throw whoever's still healthy out there. Yeah, you go ahead and play, and anyone who's even slightly banged up isn't playing in this one. And we're playing this one because we're legally obligated to, as opposed to playing a game that means something, say like week 10 or week 11 or something. I would really love to get the Packers again in about 3 or 4 weeks, but instead we got to wait till the end of the season to see them again, when neither team looks like the one that there was in week 1, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's been quite a roller coaster for the Bears. The Allen Williams thing, the losing streak,
Yeah.
Chase Claypool in his mouth, and all that kind of stuff. But it's like we've we finally just exercised it all. We got to win. We got rid of Claypool. Alan Williams is a memory at this point. We're talking about bringing in a senior defensive analyst to help play to help with the game planning or the play calling, one of the two. So, this was our reset, I guess. Like you're 1-1 in one score games. Well, we're 1-1 since the reset of all that nonsense. So because we Chase Claypool was a healthy scratch against Denver and Washington. We're 1-1 in those games, and we should have won them both. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it was
There you
addition
go.
by subtraction, getting rid of him.
Yeah, who knows what he was doing to the locker room in terms of the mood and all that stuff. So, well, let's go ahead and get into the predictions for the game. So, just for fun, the series history between the Vikings and the Bears. The
Heavily in Minnesota's
Vikings
favor, right?
the Vikings lead the all-time series 65, 57 and 2.
Okay.
So by 8 games, the Vikings lead the series, and the Vikings have won 4 in a row, dating back to the 2021 season. So I'll go ahead and let you give your thoughts here first, Larry. What do you think this game is going to end up going? Where do you think it's going to end up going?
The thing about it is I don't think a lot of Bear fans really trust the Bears at this point, because it's kind of like that quote in Godfather 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. It's like
Yeah.
just when we started giving up on the Bears and looking forward to 2024, we have 335 and 4 touchdowns against the Broncos, and then you back it up with 282 and 4 touchdowns against the Commanders, and then you win the damn game. It's like, oh, come on, man. Really? It's like, are we actually going to be good now? Now that I'm already, checking out on Black Hawk tickets and whatnot and everything, I'm already doing mock drafts for 2024. You're going to suck me back in to this thing. So it's like we're all kind of like cautiously optimistic about this weekend, especially with the way you guys have been struggling and losing Justin Jefferson. We know he's not going to be there to murder us like he has in the first 4 games that we've played against him. He's always had something to say in every single one of them. Even though he's oddly, he's only got like 2 touchdowns against the Bears, but I think he's not far from like 1,000 yards against us already. I mean, he's hurt us deeply in every game he's played against us so far. So, and then the whole Soldier Field history thing, and just the history of the rivalry. Generally, Chicago wins in Chicago, Minnesota wins in Minnesota. All things being equal, 2 1-4 teams. I'll go with history and say Chicago wins a close one on Sunday, say 24-20 or something like that.
Well, yeah, and it's funny. I said the 4 last games were won by the Vikings in the series, but previous to that, the Bears won 5 out of the 6. So,
Oh wow,
it's probably time for the Vikings' winning streak against the Bears to come to a halt. So I'm gonna say the Bears win, and honestly, I actually, this is gonna sound, oh, you're a terrible fan, like you shouldn't cheer for the Vikings to lose, but I kind of want them to lose. I want them to trade these players that are here for like a year, 1-year contract left on their deal, like trade some of those guys away and build for the future. Even if this team turns it around, I am not convinced they're going to do anything in the postseason. So I think the Vikings need to just embrace that and tank. Obviously, players don't tank. Coaches usually don't tank. But as a GM, you have the ability, as we saw with Ryan Pace last year, to change the roster. Or Ryan Poles, Ryan Poles.
I always get him. I mix them up too. Don't feel bad.
As Ryan Poles did last year, kind of emptied the cabinet, or what do you want to say, or even the previous GM for the Bears, kind of emptying the cabinet and setting up for an offseason where they were able to bring in some high quality players. So that's what I want the Vikings to kind of do, that same type of thing. Maybe not to the extent of what the Bears were able to do in free agency, but maybe a free agent or two, and start stacking up these draft picks to bring in maybe the next future quarterback of the Vikings. So that's
Yeah,
my hope.
that's
But
what I mean, the really great thing is that the Bears are in a position to have their cake and eat it too. Like we can improve as a team and win some football games because as long as Carolina keeps playing poorly, we've got the number one pick in the draft. We own their first round
right,
pick next year because of the Bryce Young trade. So it's okay for
right,
us to win games. It's just the only thing it hurts is that instead of the only thing that it hurts is that our ability to get two blue chip players instead of just one by, wherever Carolina ends up. Like we even get more picks if we have the number one pick again, because somebody's got to go up there and get Caleb Williams. Like if the Bears keep playing lights out on offense, you got to stick with Justin Fields. You can't bank on
right.
Caleb Williams being, a pro, being a solid pro when Justin Fields has finally turned the corner and everything. You got to go all in on Justin Fields. Again, you go get him Marvin Harrison Jr. Hopefully you can get him that tackle out of either Penn State or Notre Dame. Either one of those guys will do just fine. Lock him in at left tackle. You got Marvin Harrison on one side, DJ Moore on the other. Then Ryan Poles can be like,
Pretty
we're going to take the
good.
North and not give it back. So it's like, all right, we're in a position to make that happen if it goes that way. And we've probably got 2 first rounders for at least the next 2 seasons on top of it. So, yeah, it's like last year when the Bears were playing the way they were playing, it was every single week going into every single game. I want my team to win. I don't want them to lose. But if they lose, the silver lining is we got the number one pick in the draft, or we got a top pick, because we didn't have the number one pick until Lovey hooked us up with that win over Indianapolis, which pushed the Texans behind us at number 2 and
Mhm.
everything. So, it's like if they lose, that's the silver lining, is that we're going to have this top pick that we could probably auction off for extra picks and, that kind of thing. So it's like that's more the mentality I had last year. It's like I want them to win. I don't want to sit here, wait all week long for them to play only to root for them to lose. No, see them win. And if they don't, then we still got a top 5 pick there over there, want to win it. So,
Well, and the thing is for the Vikings too, if the Bears get that top pick again, the Bears are not trading that to the Vikings.
no, no,
They are not going to let the
no.
Vikings get Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, all right, Carolina, let's see if you guys can win a few games here. Put Andy Dalton in if necessary. I'm still a huge Bryce Young guy. I still really like Bryce Young, but obviously it's not been an ideal start. I don't think he's getting much of a fair shot in Carolina. Their offensive line's been questionable. The receivers around Bryce Young haven't been great. I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
bet
Frank Reich's a very good coach. Anyways,
I bet their GM wants to rethink, because Ryan, according to the rumors, Ryan Poles gave him a choice as far as like the veteran player that was thrown in. There were 3 guys that I heard. One was DJ Moore, one was JC Horn, their corner, and the other was Brian Burns. It was like, I'm
mm,
guessing they probably wish they'd thrown Brian Burns in on that deal as opposed to DJ Moore, because he could really use a DJ Moore right about now.
yeah,
So
yep,
yeah,
he could. And yeah, Brian Burns is another prime trade candidate, probably at the trade deadline again for Carolina, because yeah, their roster kind of looks kind of rough right
yeah.
now. So we'll see what that whole Carolina
It
situation
it looked
happens.
promising
But
going into the season. Hey, we got Adam
yeah,
Thielen, we got Hayden Hurst, we got, some tools, we got Miles Sanders from the Eagles and all that kind of stuff. We may have some things to work with here. And it's like,
yep,
no, none of that worked out, man, unfortunately for them.
yeah, yep. So I've got the Bears winning 27-21. That's what I'm
Mm.
gonna go with. So
Always makes me
Vikings.
nervous when the Bears are a unanimous choice. It's like, oh boy, here we go. So
Vikings have a chance to win it late, and Cousins can't do it, or Vikings can't do it, or something. I don't know. Something happens, but anyways, that's gonna wrap it up here for our Bears and Vikings preview on Sunday at Soldier Field. Larry, please let the people know where they can find you and your content.
Well, it's the Bears Talk Underground. It's the Bears podcast I've been doing since 2007, and that's the season after they made the Super Bowl. So maybe the problem has been me this whole time. Who knows? But I've also started doing an NFL show. It's called The Fourth Phase. It's on the same feed with the Bears Talk Underground. So if you pick up the Bears Talk Underground, The Fourth Phase is there as well. That's a like a Tuesday, Thursday show. The reviews on Tuesday, the previews on Thursdays. So
Cool.
all right.
Very cool. I might have to check that out. We started doing an NFL show and kind of ran out of time. It was just a lot to keep up with.
It is a lot.
Plus
It is a lot. I'll tell you that for sure. It
with-
is.
with-
It especially trying to do a recap when trying to watch highlights for 16 games so you can speak intelligently on those games. It's rough. It's rough.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you, Larry. We always appreciate having you on the show, and we'll look forward to having you on again. And I know you won't say it, but as always, Skol.